Well, good morning, friends. It's great to see all of you, and for those of you who might be visiting us this weekend, my name is Father Chris Stanish. I'm the Vicar General for the diocese, and along with Father Jim Wozniak, the pastor here, we just want to offer you a very warm welcome and let you know what a great joy it is to be able to celebrate this Mass together. So I got to tell you, as I was praying with these scriptures for this weekend, I was thinking about a story about one of my favorite saints. So he was visiting a conference center in Rome, and the priest who was guiding him through was kind of giving him a tour of all the various chapels that were in the conference center. And so it seemed like one chapel after the next. They just kept getting more and more beautiful. And so at the end of the tour, he stopped and he looked at him and he said, "So which chapel was your favorite?" And that's when the saint kind of paused and reflected, and he went over to the window and pointed out onto the street, and he said, "That one is my favorite." You know, my friends, the greatest and most beautiful chapel in the world is the world, right? When we think about it, God has created everything around us, everything that we see. You know, it wasn't like he was this divine watchmaker who created a product and then walked away from it. No, he created the earth and he looked at it and he said, "It is very good," right? So sometimes in the history of our church, we've kind of had this mentality of having contempt for the world. But really, we're called to passionately love the world, right? We don't want to be of the world, but we do live in the world. And so we want to make sure that we find ourselves here and looking around and realizing that God has not walked away. He has hidden himself within his creation. And so it is your job and mine to discover him, right? To allow him to reveal himself. And so really what we need to really reflect on is the fact that there is something holy and divine hidden in the ordinary. And I really think that this is the lesson that Jesus is trying to teach us through our gospel today about Martha and Mary. You know, it's interesting, throughout the history of Christian spirituality, Martha and Mary have always been used to kind of context two different types of lifestyles, right? You got Martha with the active life, and you have Mary with the spiritual life or the contemplative life. And those of you whose names are Martha usually hate this gospel because you're thinking like, yep, Martha, Martha, you're anxious and worried about many things. Mary chose the better part. You know, and so oftentimes that is the mentality that we have, right? That it's either work or it's prayer. Because that's what Mary symbolizes, right? Mary symbolizes this contemplative life, this life of prayer. And we even hear Jesus commending her saying, "Oh, see, you chose the better part." But really, that's not what Jesus is trying to do. He's not trying to create an opposition between Martha and Mary or between work and prayer. What Jesus is trying to do is to help us merge those two worlds, to recognize that work and prayer go hand in hand, right? That there is extraordinary grace within our ordinary work if we allow it, right? So as for myself, you know, so often throughout life, it's easy to get caught up in work. I mean, I don't know about you, but you just go from thing to thing to thing, day in and day out, and you kind of do the grind. But something else can happen as well. I mean, sometimes we can be so fervent wanting to do things for the Lord that we forget to do it with the Lord, right? And this is what Jesus is trying to tell Martha, right? You need to do your work with me. Have me accompany you. And sometimes we can get so preoccupied by that we forget that there is a tremendous amount of grace in the work that we do. And that's why instead of creating these dual lives of work and prayer, we need to merge the two together so that our prayer and our work are one. But how do we do that? Well, the church has taught us something that is very, very helpful, and that is the morning offering. Basically, as soon as we wake up in the morning, as soon as our feet hit the floor, we need to offer our day to the Lord, right? All our thoughts, all our works, all our actions. Now, I've got a friend of mine who basically has it printed out, and it's right on their bathroom mirror, because I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure everybody goes to the bathroom as soon as they wake up. So it's a great place to have your prayer so that way you go into the bathroom and now you can make your morning offering. And what's great about this is that we cannot always give God our attention, but we can give him our intention, right? And so as long as we don't actively go against that intention, then everything that we're doing is for the greater glory of God, right? It's spectacular. right? So even if we're not conscientiously thinking about the fact of, okay, I'm trying to make this work a prayer, we're already doing it, right? And so there's something beautiful about being able to merge those two things together so that way everything that we're doing is a prayer. Everything that we're doing is ultimately then for our holiness, for the holiness of those who are around us, as well as the holiness of the entire world. I mean, could you imagine? Imagine if every single one of us in this church did our morning offering. You know, what saints would be called to greatness in this world because of our prayer? You know, recognizing that there is something holy and divine hidden throughout the day in all those ordinary things. You know, and when I think about my favorite saint, I mean, he taught that priest a very important lesson. I mean, it's a good thing for us to build churches that lift our hearts and our minds, where we can gather in worship to our God, especially with the Eucharist. But it doesn't stop here, right? We're sent out into the world to go and to proclaim the good news. But if our worship stops in this building, then we have created that dual mindset between work and prayer, right? But we want to merge the two. We want to recognize that there's an extraordinary grace in our ordinary work. I mean, you and I, we live ordinary lives. We're not doing extraordinary things, but that's why it's awesome that there's extraordinary grace in those ordinary things. So the spiritual challenge that I want to pose to you this week is to go home and print out your own morning offering. So literally just Google, Bing, whatever you use for your search engine, DuckDuckGo, whatever. You know, type in Catholic morning offering, print it out, and put it somewhere where you're going to see it in the morning. And each morning this week, make that offering so that all your thoughts, all your works, all your actions are offered for the greater glory of God.